viewers, and welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. Sometimes even my own truck needs work, and they all do. They all break eventually. But I drive a 13 Toyota Tundra, and I've been hearing some squeaking coming from the front brakes. And I know last time that I did an oil change on it, I looked and I see the pads were getting down there. I've got about 62 or 63,000 miles on the truck now. Most Toyota brakes, in my experience, the factory brakes, depending on the size of the vehicle and how much towing and stuff you do, will last anywhere from 65 to about 90,000 miles, like on the RAV4s and stuff. At least from what we see here. So I pulled the front wheels, and indeed the inside pad squeaker is hitting some rust there on the inside of the rotor. There's still pads are about probably 20%, but just the way the rotor's starting to rust, starting to squeak, it's getting a little bit annoying. I snagged us up some parts, and I'm going to show you how to do a front brake job on your Tundra. So like I say, you can see there's still, probably at least 20% of the pad left, but I don't know if you guys can hear that squeak or not. So every time it comes around, hitting a squealer in here. Like I said, it's just rust buildup on the inside, bottom half of the rotor, but pads are getting low enough I can, justify replacing them. It's kind of a pay me now or pay me later, right? So first thing first, I'm gonna take and get some of the brake hardware off here. So these are, I guess I always call them anti-drag clips. These just kind of keep a little bit of spring tension out on the pads, to relieve them off the rotor. Also keeps the pads from rattling around in there. These don't have your typical, pieces of tin hardware. And these calipers are kind of unique in the sense that they're a 4-piston caliper, so they're, real big, real heavy-duty brake. No sliders, nothing moves here because you've got pistons on both sides. So we've got to remove this piece of hardware too. This locks the pins in. It's kind of like the cotter pin for the pins. And we got all this stuff new, so because often these, at least here in Rust Belt, are seized inside these pins. And then, once that's done, we've got to see if we can get these pins loose. Which these aren't too bad. Which I was kind of hoping was the case because I did not get new pins. So I might be boned if the other side doesn't come loose. Sometimes what you can do too is, spray these down real good with Panther-P, and then, you drive them in, drive them out, just keep going back and forth with them until you get them out. If you don't have a punch that's long enough. But these ones are moving pretty good, thankfully. It's a little hard to work around the camera. There. So we take that clip out. That's kind of what that little guy looks like. So fingers crossed. These things like to seize up pistons where they don't return. I hope that's not the case. Getting the screwdriver up against the rotor. Oh, right in the schnoz. Just start working them back. Now these pads are junk, so I don't worry about the screwdriver gouging up the pad. But I would like to get the pistons fully retracted. Now prior to doing this, you probably ought to make sure your brake fluid reservoir isn't full to the tippy top. Because if it is, you're going to make a mess. Use an old turkey baster or something to suck some of the fluid out of it. shims. Usually these are a little bit rusted in there. They're a pretty snug fit as it is. Try to pull them up evenly, but screwdriver. There we go. Almost there. There. And if you were doing just pads, I suppose at this point, you could just clean up your caliper here a little bit, slip new pads in, and you're almost done. So they're not too bad in that sense. We're going to be replacing the rotors also, just because. Let's catch the edge of this. Start to push that piston in a little, just enough to get in front of the pad. Now sometimes when you push in one side, obviously the fluid's going to travel to the other side of the caliper and push the piston in over there. That's not a big deal. They do make a special tool that goes in here that's like a little V. I don't have one that goes in that opens up, that spreads both of them at the same time. But honestly, I don't do enough Toyotas in general to justify even having a tool when we can just do it like this. Set those down there. So this is just how I've always done them. But they do make a tool to spread these open once the pads are removed. Here. This one seems like it's a little bit snugger. It is. Let me get something else. See if we can't. Yeah, this pad's stuck in there pretty good. I tell you what, we're going to be taking the caliper off, so instead of trying to wedge this up all the way, when we pull the caliper off, we'll take it off and then we'll just knock it through, and then we're going to clean up the area where these pads rest. And I usually do that just with a little flat file. Sometimes I'll take the rotor off, kind of stick the caliper back up to hold it, and then you can get in here and clean those up. It doesn't require a lot, but there's just enough rust just to hold these, because they're used to sitting in just one spot, and when you try to pull them up through, the area of the pad that sticks through a little bit gets a little bit of rust on it, and you can't drag it back up through the hole. So we have to crack our brake line loose up here. It's hooked with a solid line, goes up to the flex hose. It's on a bracket. We've got to get that broke loose. That when we take our caliper off, we're not doing any damage to our solid line here. There's the ABS wire hooked to the back of that. I am just going to unhook that clip just in case. These calipers are kind of heavy. A couple little fingers on that. Is that going to give us enough flex? We probably should have unhooked this 10mm too that holds that ABS wire. So why don't we do that just in case things get ugly on us. That way we're not yanking on the ABS wires. So we got to stick that 12 back in. That'll hold the bracket for us while we crack that other one loose. Now we don't have to worry about our ABS wire snagging on us. Beautiful. Now it's all me do, this solid line's pretty rusty, so you just change that wire there. Now we will crack the caliper loose. gorgeous. Gorgeous, baby. That little guy is loose. So now we should be able to take that off and get our pad out. I'll just hold it here. See if we can't just tap that through. Ah, there she is. Okay, now set that down some wires. Got to. I don't think we can use our hook. Got caliper hanging hooks, but I don't think we got anything to hook it to. Perhaps. I don't want to bend up our rigid line too bad. That'll hold it good enough for what we're going to do. We're going to have to get our rotor off here. Actually, we can have a look at this pad. So you can see how the inside pad is wearing out. It's got this groove in the bottom where the rust on the inside of the rotor was hitting. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it or not, but the tip of this squeaker, where am I? Yeah, the tip of the squeaker is shiny. So that's where it was hitting. So it was doing its job. That's what they're made to do. They get really annoying. They just, the whole time you drive, they just squeak and squeal. Yeah, they squeak and squeal. Tap on our rotor, get that off. And Big Nasty's the guy for the job. Because he don't play. Ooh, a little bit of crusty. Yo, rust, baby. So that's the inside of the rotor. It's not too bad. Like I say, it's just this little inner rust ring. But you can see, I mean, the fins and stuff in these start getting rusty. So that's why I'm changing it instead of just pad slapping it. I knew the pads were getting low this winter, but I kind of wanted to wait for the salt season to be over. Unhook our caliper. See if we got room to work on this now. Set it up against our tin shield. I'll get you guys around here. What we're gonna do, or what is my habit to do, is like I said, I just take a square file, and there's two flat pads inside the caliper here where the pads sit, or where they slip in. So they ride right on the ends of the pads. They slip in the caliper, and that allows them to move inside here. Of course, they get kind of crusty, but it's not too bad. So we just take a flat file, come in here and just kind of work all the rust and crap off it, make sure our new pads slip in, and that's pretty much it on these. There's not a lot of serviceability, no pins, nothing like that. So you can probably get in here with your little whizzy wheel. You got to be awful careful of the boots on the pistons there. If you do that, usually with a file you're pretty safe. And this is not the proper way to use a file, just FYI, you shouldn't drag them backwards. But we're not running a machinist channel, so it usually doesn't take much to get these smoothed out. Switch file, I got the truck up a little bit high for me. Just hold your file flat. Like I say, you're mostly looking to get the rust scraped off it, get it back down smooth again, and then just test fit your pads, make sure they go in nice and easy. Try one of these old pads. So your pads should be able to slip. Now these are pretty tight tolerance, but your pads should be able to slip down in and out, nice and easy now on both sides. Like I say, you do have to stick them in nice and straight. You start going in cockeyed with them, they get kind of bound up. But as long as they go in and out nice and smooth, you'll be in good shape. I think what we'll do now, let's see if we can get all of our pistons back in. Sometimes you can just, you know, go through and just work across them slowly. It might take a couple pairs of vice grips. I think I got another pair. There's usually one piston that moves easier than the rest. I'm just going to go through and it's kind of like playing a game of whack-a-mole. Push one in, another one pops out. But usually if you go slow enough, you'll get the fluid to go back up the line, or, you know, better yet, if you opened your bleeder, you could get them to just bleed out. Oops. Wow. Don't want this baby to fall. But the piston should move nice and easy. If any of them are tight, you're gonna have to change the caliper. That's all there is to it. Like I said, they do make a special tool for this. So those are in. Top ones came out just a smidge. Come on, little fella. There. It's a little bit of a balancing act. I'm just gonna end up going back and forth this little guy. Yeah, I am. Stay. No fear, I've got one more pair left. Like I say, if you don't want to do this, it's kind of just a little bit of an extra step. If you don't want to push in all your pistons before you put the caliper on, you can just push in 2 of them and then put it on, and then just push the other 2 in once the caliper is set. So either way, just giving you some options, however you want to do it. Totally up to you. Like I say, when you take it off, just make sure when you pull the caliper off that you've already at least retracted 2 of them with the pads. Then, you know, put everything together, stick that pad in, and come over with a screwdriver or whatever and pop back the other 2 pistons. And you'll be good to go. And at this point, you know, probably prior to this point, you know, make sure that you inspect the boots around the pistons, make sure none of them have holes, make sure you don't have a lot of rust buildup on the face of the pistons, you know, stuff like that. Good visual inspection. We're gonna hang this little guy back up if we can get it there. Get our hub surface prepared for our new rotor. So we're just gonna clean up the hub face. I've got a hub cleaning tool, goes around the wheel stud. Gets that little bit of rust that's on the inside there. These are just replaceable cups that go on the end. I think 3M makes it. As a matter of fact, I think I've got these in the Amazon store. They do last an extremely long time. No way we can do a whole brake job without using some brake clean, right? I knew you guys are waiting for it anyways. Hit this baby with a little fluid film. Slow down the rust. Get my wheel bearing while I'm in here. The face of that all slathered up. We'll grab our new rotor. Here she is, genuine Toyota. How do you know it's genuine Toyota? Because it's made in America. A lot of comments I could put in here about Chevy and Dodge. They're not American parts that they all use. Everything we get for Toyotas and Hondas, made in the USA, baby. Supporting the American workforce. So I want to take and just clean off the rotor. It has any packing type grease on it, which it does. You know, it's sad, you know, we joke about it, about, you know, the big three and all the parts that we get for them that are all made overseas. Not that all Chinese stuff is junk, but it's kind of a disgrace. You know, apple pie, Chevrolet, baseball, you know, the American way. And then here, every single part we get for GM is either, you know, made in China, made in Malaysia, made in Mexico. It's just, none of it's made here. It's kind of disappointing. That's all. I'm not a Chevy hater. I know some of you guys dislike me dissing on Chevy. But it's just kind of sad because everything I buy for this truck is made in America. So what we'll do now, before we slip the caliper back on, I'm going to use a little caliper grease, get on our brush, and we are going to lubricate. Need to get a new brush, get a few stringers off it. Just down on the flats here where the pads slide. Hopefully slow down the rusting process a little bit. Allow our pads to move nice and free. And I usually do this before I stick it down on because it kind of prevents you from getting grease on the caliper, on the rotor. But if you're just slapping pads on yours, you can sneak down in there and get it. If you get grease on the rotor, wipe it off. Be sure you don't have any pigtails there in your caliper hose, your brake hose. You don't want to get that baby all twisted up. Now, according to Toyota service info, anytime you remove these caliper brake or the caliper bracket bolts or the caliper bolts, yeah, it's not even right bracket. Your caliper bolts, you're supposed to replace them. They tell you can reuse your hardware, but you got to replace the bolts. Don't know why. I don't believe they're a torque to yield bolt. Not sure. But that's your warning. And then, of course, torque them to factory specs. 73 foot-pounds. Made in USA. So I got some Toyota pads. Now the thing is with the Toyota pads, they don't come with shims. So you have to keep that in mind when you're buying them. You have to buy a shim pack. So this comes with, it's all shim 1 and shim 2. So your inner and outer shims. This comes with, well, a little bit of the factory Toyota grease because you install the inner shim first and then the outer shim, put your grease in between the two layers. So I'll show you how to do that. So you can use a little grease packet that comes with it, or you can use your favorite caliper grease. You can apply the grease, you know, directly to the shim or to the pad, however you prefer. We're just going to slather up the back of our shim here. This is going to help cut down on noise. Any spot there's a metal-to-metal contact, except between, you know, obviously the face of the pad and the rotor, you want her slippery. We'll stick that on there. That's our inside pad. We got to make sure we got the one with the squealer in the correct location. Just going to stick your shim up on here. And then usually what I'll do is grease on both sides of the shim. This is going to ensure we have a very quiet brake system. You don't need to go hog wild with this, just, you know, lightly hog wild. Beautiful. And then we've got shim number 1, number 2, I don't know. There, so we've got it greased in between. And then it's up to you to keep the face of my pistons from rusting. Usually I grease this side of the shim too, and that is also a metal to metal contact. Now you can get in there and try to fish around just the face of the pistons, or that's where some people disagree. You can just grease the back side of the shim. Now these don't have a tendency to rust, so it's not so much a corrosion prevention as it is, you know, that metal to metal contact. We'll just slobber this baby up. I've done this on every, I mean, you guys have probably seen if you've watched any other brake video that we've ever done. You know, every brake job, regardless of make or model, I always grease between the pad and the caliper, or the pad and the pistons, or the pads and the ears on the caliper, however it goes. I've always done that. I've done, you know, thousands and thousands of brake jobs. So our pad with the squeaker goes on the inside. Very gingerly slip it on in. And what we need to do, or what I need to go do, is I need to go clean up our pins. I'm going to clean these up on the wire wheel. That way we can stick them in to hold it. Of course, we'll grease these up too. And then we can get our other pad in, slide our pins in, and dunchki. Got our pins cleaned up. I'm going to take an old Q-tip, an old used Q-tip. We're going to grease up inside the hole where the pins go. And then we'll grease up our pin before we knock it through. Now if your pins came out hard, you're going to have to clean up inside this hole. I found the best thing to use is I just keep stepping up in a drill bit until I get the one that's like, you know, just the exact size. And then you can just kind of, you know, twist it through by hand if you got, or use the drill bit. And you know, if you go in and out with it, usually the flutes on the drill bit will be sharp enough to kind of cut that rust edge down for you. So there's that. Like I say, we will slobber up our pins. Of course, a lot of this will get pushed off as we knock it through. So that's why I take a little extra time to put some right there. Now you got to get it through the shim and the pad and the whole shebang on the way through. So make sure nothing falls off or gets jacked out of the way. But you shouldn't have to force anything. I guess when you're putting these together, everything should move nice and smooth. You know, the pads, the whole bit. And one thing I did notice, I did not get the pin that locks the two pads together. So I opened up my, I got a shim kit here, or what do they call it? A fitting kit from Toyota. I told them I wanted all the hardware. And it only comes with the two anti-rattle clips. It does not come with this piece to lock down the pins. But fortunately, we got it out and it's in good shape. So not worried about that. Now we're going to put our outboard pad in. Same thing, same process. I'm not going to show you. We slather it up, shim it, slather it some more, shim it again. It's like making a sandwich. And then we shim it again. Then we'll slip it in and we'll get our pins in, which I clearly have going in the wrong direction, as you've probably noticed at this point. That's the beauty of doing it live, folks. You get to see the mistakes. But clearly I just put them there to hold it, duh. We'll slip that one through. Slip that little guy through, boom, just like that. Now we've got to get our pins lined back up. That one right about there. That one right about there. Slip that side in. Slip that side in. Get her locked back in. Oh, you big dummy, dang it all. Freaking made a mistake again. These Toyota guys watching, probably laughing right now. He forgot his anti-rattle clip. I was just test fitting this pin, man. Now that we know that fits, we'll pop the bottom one back out. Jeez. You guys are getting all excited over nothing. We'll stick our new anti-rattle clip in. Now that we've got everything test fit, spin that back around, lock our pin back in, get everything locked back in. Oops. Lock this little guy. My hands are so slippery. Lock that one in. We'll lock that one in. There, everything is locked together. Our pads move nice and free. That's the main thing. Don't want any binding. When you're only getting 14 miles to the gallon, you need all the efficiency you can get. Make sure you torque that to factory specs and hook your ABS line back up, ABS wire. Torque that to factory specs and ship it. Well, there you have it, folks. All that's left at this point before we ship it, pump up the brake pedal. Don't forget that step. Otherwise, you get that little 10-second scary ride until you get brakes again. So make sure you pump up the brakes, get the pistons come out, brake pedal feels good, check your brake fluid, all that business. If you had the bleeder open, you know, obviously make sure that you have somebody help you bleed the brakes. I was going to do a brake fluid flush on it. I've got to do my 60K service at some point. I did order a case of training fluid and, you know, cabin air filter and all that business when I ordered my brakes. So that'll probably be in an upcoming video. I know a few of you guys have asked about, you know, doing some service work here on the Tundra. Oh man, the sweatshirt's falling apart. But so they'll be in some upcoming videos. I haven't done a lot of you know, basic routine maintenance, you know, service type videos in a while. So we'll probably be adding some of them in here. Like I say, I got to do this, you know, the 60K. So we'll be doing like the trainee, transfer case, you know, probably dump the differentials. I do tow with this quite a bit, so we'll make sure everything's good there. I do know I did need brakes. Even bought some factory wiper blades for it, just because I put factory blades on it way back when I first got it, so I've had it over a year, and they're still good. So, and they're not that much more. I think they're like 18 or 19 bucks, and that's what you're going to pay for a set of wipers downtown. But I guess that's neither here nor there. Personal preference. I like to use factory parts on my own stuff. Hard sell to make to a customer a lot of times, you know, to buy factory parts, but it is what it is. I'm going to get the other side done. We're going to keep moving. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see the other service work when I bring this thing in, you know, when I get time. I always got to work on it on weekends. You know, if we do the diff changes, you know, fluids, training fluid, that kind of stuff. Kind of just routine stuff, but I know you guys kind of like that and ask for that. So let me know in the comments below. Also, too, while you're down there, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notifications in your inbox, on your phone, on your desktop, wherever the notifications go. So you know when Self-Made Auto rolls out a video each and every week. You can also find us on Google+, Facebook, and Patreon if you want to support what we do. And we do certainly appreciate that in each and every one of you. So, oh yeah, and give us a thumbs up. So, all right guys, just remember, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.